Graphical user interfaces should not be confused with the interfaces we discussed previously. These items are the graphical elements that end users interact with that cause events to be triggered, and those events will interact with your objects. The interfaces discussed before are the interfaces that other objects can use to communicate with your object, sometimes referenced as users of the object. End users, often programmers who want to use your tool, will use the interfaces that you have written into your objects as part of the Application Programming Interface (API) available for tools. Each object's interface is one small part of the entire package's interface. GUIs have several parts that all work together to create the finished product, and some pieces are there for aesthetic purposes only, such as lines, dividers, and borders. The main components that you will be working with are buttons, menus, and form objects like text box, radio buttons, checkboxes, and sliders. There are many more options, but too many elements clutter a display, so we will keep it limited for now. All of these items can be placed directly on a frame and manipulated to specific coordinates, or you can use a layout. A layout is a preset way to order your components on your frame. Using a layout manager, you can customize your interface quickly and easily without having to reorganize everything when you add a new component. And finally, there are events, which will fire when an action is done based on user input. This input can range from filling in a text box to pushing a button, which activated code that will complete a task or interact with your objects. The two main libraries that are used when creating GUIs are java.awt and java.swing. Both these libraries have components that can be used in GUI design. However, Swing is the more updated of the two. In fact, AWT was the original library, and Swing has reused some of the component names, so that Swing is only usable with some of the AWT base libraries. AWT stands for Abstract Window Toolkit, which was how windows were viewed when there was first a need to implement and include a window toolkit. Up until then, most servers and computers were command line Unix and Linux machines, and very rarely did they use a mouse. This slide has the basic elements of a frame. There are window controls, a menu bar, the content pane, and the title, which are all created by default when you create a new frame. To create a frame, you will need to include these libraries and use this call. This example shows the code that is used to add a label to an image viewer JFrame. The frame itself is empty and doesn't hold any content. That is what the content pane is for. It is the container to hold all of the items that you want to place in your JFrame. It is done this way so that if you want to hide portions of your GUI, you can simply make the content pane invisible while keeping the frame active.